Hello everyone, Monoliith / Disturbed One here. Alright, so I was discussing the Legion patch notes and decided I wanted to share my thoughts that I was sharing with some of the dudes in Vent with more people online like y'all so you can judge me for being a terrible person. So, that being said, let's just jump right into it. The talent trees are undergoing huge, some might say, monolithic changes, and in my opinion, it's a damn good thing for Death Knights. We have a terrible talent tree right now, and we have since the revamp. We don't have bad talents, we just have almost no choice in the ones we take, which is a super big letdown if you play the class more than casual. So, hopefully with this new tree, that'll change, and so far from what I'm seeing, it looks very promising. The Tier 1 talents as of right now, because of course this is all subject to change, are all healing based for different situations. First up is Bloodworms. If your Death Strike would heal you past full health, you create a Bloodworm. Bloodworms explode if they aren't fed for 10 seconds, or when you drop below 50% health, healing you for 100% total amount of excess healing. This talent, to me, feels a lot like the introductory talent of the tier. What I mean by that is it's the talent that people that aren't playing efficiently will be able to use passively and help themselves immensely. I think it's a good idea myself because people are just spamming Death Strike, always run out of runes, or running power in Legion when they get low health. This talent will give them a bit of a safety net, and Bloodworms are so fucking cute. The next talent, Feeding Frenzy, I'll have to explain a little bit about the new Death Strike first. Death Strike will now cost runic power, 40 at the moment, and the heal will be 50% of all damage taken in the last 6 seconds, similar to what it was in Mist. However, if you are below 35% health when you cast it, all runic power is consumed, not just 40, increasing the potency of the heal correspondingly. What Feeding Frenzy does is increase the heal of excess runic power by an additional 15%. This talent feels like it will be amazing on super hard hitting bosses, where you're constantly dropping super low, so you can pull your RP and pop yourself back up. Not as easy to use as Bloodworms because you only use it when you're very low health. This will become a niche talent if it stays as it is right now, but hopefully they'll all be niche talents, so I'm okay with that. The final talent in the first tier of abilities is Rune Tap. Yep, they're changing Rune Tap again. Before I get into this, understand that Rune Tap has already been changed during the beta massively. So, Rune Tap in its current iteration, which is consume a rune to restore 20% of your health, you may recast this ability within 3 seconds without triggering the cooldown, 2-minute cooldown. This one may be the one we take the least, I think. Not because it's bad, but because if it stays as it is, the cooldown is just absurdly long. If the cooldown was 45 to 60 seconds, I think it would be awesome. But 20% healing isn't much, and if you pop Vamp Blood, it's 40% because of the Vamp Blood change. And using it twice, that is 80% heal on a 2-minute cooldown, which is considerable, but you're losing out on the damage of Death Strike and the blood shield from your mastery that you'd be getting from Frenzy. And I'm fairly sure in its current state, Feeding Frenzy just does its own job better, but we'll see, I could just be overthinking it. The Tier 2 talents, level 57, are abilities that are a combination of offensive and defensive usefulness. First up is Rapid Decomposition. This ability causes your Defile or Death and Decay to do 25% more damage to targets infected with Blood Plague. You also gain 50% increased healing from Blood Plague while standing in your Death and Decay. If you're curious what this means, the new Blood Plague heals the Death Knight for 1% health every 3 seconds. Woohoo. This leads me to think, defensively, this talent is next to pointless. Pure healing tends to not be all that useful to a tank DK, but 25% more damage on D&D and Defile is considerable, so it could just be a talent that's supposed to focus much more on offense than defense, and AoE specifically. We'll just have to see how things play out in the end. The next talent in this tier is Ossuary. This ability causes your Marrow Rend to hit multiple targets when standing in your Death and Decay or Defile. If it hits 2 or more targets, you create an additional Bone Shield charge. Marrow Rend, if you aren't aware, is a single target ability that generates 3 charges of Bone Shield when you cast it. This talent, to me, feels amazing. A free stack of a 25% damage mitigation ability on top of turning your highest damage ability into a major cleave. is an amazing talent. This is going to be hard to top. This is absolutely the one I'm looking forward to the most in this tier. The final talent in this tier is Consume Vitality. This is a 20-second cooldown rune ability that drains the life from all nearby enemies, damaging them for shadow damage and healing you for 25% of your missing health. This is an awesome spell too. God, it's cool. I know I sound so enthusiastic, but it really is. This ability heals for a ton considering the cost, and is going to do a burst AoE damage. Realistically, I don't see it outperforming Ossuary in its current iteration in terms of damage, but for some reason, you need more healing rather than more mitigation. It's definitely an appealing choice. The Tier 3 level 58 talents are the ones that affect rune management, and sadly, Blood Tap is gone. First up, we have Runic Longevity. This talent gives you a 7th rune. I know, crazy, right? And increases rune regen by 10%. I really, really want to like this talent. I'm just so unsure if I will. There's a very little I can say about it without testing it out because of the kind of the way the runes interact. And it is kind of boring, but potentially amazing. So we'll have to see. Next up, we have Runic Empowerment. It's the same as it's always been, a 1% chance per RP spent to activate a dead rune. Terrible for a blood DK because we need consistent and predictable rune development in the but we will be using Runic Power as a much higher priority now with Death Strike costing it. So maybe it'll be better. I'm not keeping my hopes up though. Finally, we have Runic Corruption. Once again, same as it's always been. You have a 1% chance per RP spent to increase rune regen by 100% for 3 seconds. This is a perfectly acceptable talent for a Blood DK now and in the future. I don't really have much else to say. I just want Blood Tap back. The Tier 4 level 60 talents are talents that all focus on becoming the Juggernaut, bitch. Yeah, I'm terrible at accents, but you get the idea. They're talents to stop you from being crowd controlled in various different ways. First up, March of the Damned. Become immune to all movement impairing effects and effects that cause you to lose control of your character for 10 seconds. Doesn't break those already in progress. This talent is going to be awesome in PvE, where CC abilities are easily predictable. Become completely immune to crowd control for 10 seconds on a tank? Yes, please. Next, we have Spellbreaker. This spell is a passive that increases AMS's duration by 60% and the absorption value by 50%. At first glance, it isn't an anti-CC ability, especially if you don't play a Death Knight, but it actually is. It's just also more than that. Oh! AMS blocks magical spells that hit you when it is active, and this keeps it active much longer, this talent does. And by blocking magical spells, it also blocks the effect they would apply, so Frost Mage shooting you, doesn't matter. It also returns Runic Power when it absorbs damage, which can now be translated directly into shielding and healing with Death Strike costing RP. So this spell is going to be fucking amazing. Finally, we have Desecrated Ground. It works the same way it always has. For 10 seconds, anywhere inside an 8-yard radius that you move, you're immune to CC. This ability would be just straight up worse than March of the Damned, except that you can actually cast Desecrated Ground when you're already crowd controlled, so you could use it to break you out of a stun or root that you didn't block. Situationally useful, as it always has been, but Desecrated Ground just isn't working out very well overall. The Tier 5 level 75 talents are our oh shit button, or, well, passive talents. First up, Purgatory. Same as it is currently, no changes at all. If you die, you get a 3-second window to be healed out of Purgatory for the excess damage you've taken, and not die. It's absolutely amazing for tanking, and going to be very hard to outperform the others. Purgatory is kind of awesome and easier to explain by saying you get negative hit points for a short time that you can be healed back to positive from. Next, there's Death Pact. It's the same as it is right now. It heals you for a massive amount up front, but blocks all healing received for 15 seconds until it absorbs healing equal to 25% of the burst you healed for. It's a very solid talent overall, and has saved my ass more than once. I have no idea if I'll take this over Purgatory or not. Will probably be fight dependent, which is awesome. Finally, there's Exhume. A 60-second cooldown that gives you 1 charge of Bone Shield every second for 10 seconds. This ability is odd. I think it might end up being the best talent at higher gear and play levels, because 10 stacks of a 25% mitigation can be amazing. But on fights with only 1 or 2 targets, no trash for the DK to AoE tank, this talent's value will probably be reduced immensely. But I love it in theory. The tier 6 level 90 talents are all about mob management. First up, Gorfine's Grasp. Everyone who raids should already know what this is. It's a 20-yard onto target AoE death grip. It's fucking incredible. It's so good, Death Knights are brought to raid just to have it. For bosses where you can use it, it's unbelievably powerful. Next, Remorseless Winter. This is an overtime AoE slow into stun that we all used while leveling and doing 5-man dungeons. For challenge modes, it's amazing. For raiding, it's much less so. Overall, a good solid talent. Seldomly better than Gorfine's, but when it is by miles. Finally, Asphyxiate. This is a single target stun on a 1-minute cooldown that silences them if they're immune. I can't really ever see taking this over the other two in PvE, and specifically a raiding environment. Maybe my imagination isn't strong enough, it just feels very outclassed. Finally, the tier 7 level 100 talents. These are the finishing moves of the DK tree, and they are awesome. First, the new ability, Bone Storm. Yes, we're getting Bone Storm, and it's fucking awesome. A world of bone and gore batters nearby enemies 3 times per second to deal shadow damage, healing you for 1% of your max health per strike. Lasts 6 seconds. This ability is fucking cool. It's going to need to do a substantial amount of damage and healing to overtake Sindragosa, but here's hoping. Next, we have Defile. Turns Death and Decay into a growing pustule that increases in size and damage every time it does damage, and enemies in it do 10% less damage to you. A strong overall talent, but its mitigative value is very, very low over the course of a fight. Seldomly been the optimal choice in WoD, especially in later tiers. We'll have to see how things turn out in Legion. It's a cool ability though. Finally, we have Breath of Sindragosa. Continuously deals Shadow Frost damage every 1 second to enemies in a cone in front of you, within 12 yards. Deals reduced damage to secondary targets. You continue breathing until cancelled or runic power is exhausted. When Breath of Cindy deals damage, you heal for 25% of all damage taken during the last 6 seconds. 3% health minimum. Triggers Blood Shield. The change to make Cindy trigger Blood Shield and heal for that is massive. Almost too massive, as it's going to make Cindy basically the default choice, especially with the way they're balanced right now. We'll have to wait and see though, as usual, because balance in alpha is kind of irrelevant. Alright guys, that's my general first impressions of the DK talents for Legion. As more news comes out, I'll release more info and maybe just update this video. Like and subscribe guys, DK Bros for life.